Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to grade on D2L. So the first thing we're going to do is click on Gradebook up at the top. And then let's choose the assignment that we want to grade. We're going to click the down arrow and we're going to click Enter Grades. And here you'll see a list of students and their submissions as well as their grades and their feedback. Now these are all grad students who had submitted this assignment for practice in training, so we can show their scores here. But please do not show your student scores to anyone else other than the lab manager or the mentor TA. So let's click on the submission here for Courtney Moss. Here we can see their submission on the left hand side of the page and their grade and feedback on the right hand side of the page. Here you can see the Turnitin similarity report. This is where you can determine if the assignment had been plagiarized or not. Now sometimes you'll see this number as 100%, and what that could indicate is that their partner had also turned in the same assignment and the Turnitin is just comparing the two and saying that they're exactly the same. So if you see 100%, more than likely you want to check their partner's submission and just compare that they're the exact same thing. So if you have a high score, we can go ahead and click on it. And we're directed to a website where we can see the highlighted portions as being the same as other sources found on the internet. And we can scroll through and we can kind of check out their assignment and see what has been copied over. Now it looks like this student did most of their own work. The highlighted portions are really not that significant. So I can determine that this is the student's work. So then we can just exit out of this tab and we're brought back to the submission page. We can open up their submission right here, and please make sure that your students had submitted as a PDF. And now we can give them some feedback. Let's click on Zoom In, and then let's go to the feedback portion, and we can physically type their feedback. You can do it this way if you want to, or if you devise your own method, you can also use that. What I like to do is I like to type a number for the question that we're grading. So I'll call this one Session 1 Goals, and then I'm going to put a slash, the total number of points, and then a dash and a space. Now this way I can enter my overall grade here if I so choose, and then you can type your feedback here and then just go along through every other question. So question 2 is the assigned drink spectrum, and this is worth 3 points, so I'll put a slash, a 3, a dash, and a space. And then let's do one more. This can be the stock reference die. Now this is going to be out of 3 points as well. And then you can go ahead and enter the grades and their feedback for all of their questions. Once you're finished with that, you're going to add up all their scores and put it in the overall grade section. Now I'm just doing this for practice, so I'm not going to actually grade this assignment. But let's say during lab that you noticed this student had been taking off their goggles a lot. We can put up here next to feedback PPE violation, and then I can call this goggles removed, let's say 3 times. And then I'm going to put their point deduction, minus 1.5 points for that. So once you add up all their score, go ahead and minus 1.5 from that. And let's just say, for example, this student got 14.5 out of 20. Once you have their overall grade up here, we can hit publish, and their score had been published in the gradebook. We can copy their feedback. So I'm going to highlight all of this, press Ctrl C, and then I'm going to find out who their partner is. Their partner is Nara. So we're going to go to the gradebook again, and we're going to find Nara. Now, we're not going to give Ray 14.5 because she had kept her goggles on. So she gets an extra 1.5 points. So 14.5 plus 1.5 is 16. Then we're going to click this little pen icon over here to enter their feedback. And then same thing, so we copied their feedback, let's paste the feedback. But remember, Nara did not remove the goggles, so we're going to get rid of that feedback. We're going to click Save. And then to lock it in, we're going to press Save at the very bottom right here. And click Yes. And now we can see their scores are published in the gradebook. And let's say you wanted to see the grade breakdown for every student for every assignment. We can scroll all the way up and click Gradebook again. Click Enter Grades. And then here we can see all the students, their final calculated grades, and their grade breakdown for every assignment. This is a good place to see how many exempts you've given a student, because a student can only have 2 exempts per semester. And it's also a good place to see which students did not attempt a quiz, and so you can enter in zeros for those. So let's say that, for example, I see a few students in the pigment quiz did not submit it. So we can click the drop down arrow, click Enter Grades, and then for all these students who did not submit it up here, if you wanted to, you could just populate those as zeros, since D2L won't do that on its own until the end of the semester, and you want to give your students an accurate representation of their grade as the semester unfolds. Let's click Save. And those scores have now been populated as zeros. Alright, that about wraps it up for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it, and please email me if you have any questions. Alright, thank you.